Hey, welcome to Chat Cinema. I'm here talking to Wes Andre Goodrich about his short film Meal Ticket, which is a bit topical right now, given the headlines of the past few months about a certain person. It concerns the music industry, hence why I said it's topical. Let's get started. Now, how did you develop this story?
So my co-writer and producer Patrick Nichols used to be a videographer on the tour of a musician, a very famous musician, that he probably choked me through the screen if I reveal. But he said that it was a really stressful job, but a really enjoyable job. He was like the backstage world is something that uh he always thought a thriller could be set in because it's so high pressure. And when I jumped on, I thought, well, I'm a lifelong fan of hip hop, of rap. Why don't we make it a young rap star? And then rap is one of those genres where people get famous really young.
Mhm.
Especially now, you can just put something on TikTok, you can put something on YouTube, on
Yeah.
Instagram, and then you blow up, you go viral. So what if we took a kid who is 18, 19, got super famous really fast and is on his first tour. And now, something happens in his life and everybody around him, the ecosystem around him has to decide what to do. Um, so that's where the idea came from. And then it's this idea of like, as a young black artist, like who's looking out for you, how many opportunities do you get? Everybody knows, everybody, black person knows that I interact with knows that black people don't get many chances to mess up. You get one chance and that's it. And this movie is about the one chance for this kid.
All right, let me ask you. Um, this really is a story, and how did you integrate this about compartmentalization and
Mm,
rationalizing things?
mm,
And I
mm,
think that is where the tension comes from. Were you a
mm.
little worried about that, and how did you develop it?
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, I mean compartmentalization. I think it's a film about business versus human relationships. You know what I mean? Like what happens when those two things get put together. We follow this guy Saint, played by Sadiq Saunderson,
Mhm.
and the team that's around him. And um, what we um, what we find is that we have this guy that has known this artist since before he was famous, but now has to make big decisions for everyone. That doesn't just involve himself, but involves everyone. And it's on the clock. We only have 10 minutes to make the decision.
Yeah.
So the relationships that Saint has with Apollo, his not only friend but also his client, has to kind of be compartmentalized. He has to not think about him as this kid that he picked up. He has to think about him as uh, an entity that could make everyone money, and an entity that if he left, could lose everyone money. So I think thinking about it as compartmentalization, starting to put relationships in certain buckets, so you don't have to think about the consequences of it, is a big part of it.
But is Saint a good guy, a bad guy, but or Saint's just looking after that bottom line? Saint, how do you classify him?
Man, I think the strength of the Sadiq's performance and everybody's performance in it, um, is that he's just a guy, man. And I think like he's he is a guy that is, I think in his head, the bottom line is he wants to protect himself, his family, and Apollo. But what that means and what that causes him to do,
Mhm.
I think, is the story of the movie. And I think
Yeah.
Patrick, who co-wrote it with me, is was so smart about this, about never tipping him over into being like money hungry, never having him be like Scrooge McDuck rubbing his hands like we're gonna make so much money. You know what I mean? But like um always keeping him on the line of he has a lot of responsibilities. What happens when those responsibilities are
Yeah.
up against each other? What does he do? You know what I mean? So I think he's a guy under a lot of pressure, as I'm sure you've been in, as I'm under, when I'm directing or whatever.
But here's the how do I say this term? In this business, in
Hmm.
entertainment business, but I think in any business, once you cross that line, you don't go back. Or do you go, or maybe a few people do go back. And with Saint, that might be a problem.
Mm. Yeah.
Because you can
Like
rationalize anything.
yeah. I think that's the question. that we want to leave them with is like what happens to Saint and his relationship and who he is
Yeah,
as a person after this choice he makes. You know what I mean? Like I think that's the fun of the short. Hopefully, if it's working, is people come up to me after festival screenings and um if the compliments I really love is when people go, I like the short, but like what happened? Like what happens
yeah,
to him? Like what happens to the relationship? And
exactly.
I have some ideas. I think um the music world, as I understand it from friends who work in it, very cutthroat, maybe even more cutthroat than any other an entertainment business. But it's like what happens, I know, and Patrick knows, but maybe when we get a pilot off of it, maybe when we get that proof of concept pilot off the ground, everyone else will know. But for now, it's just kind of it's for the audience to think about when they go home.
What are you working on next? Are you going to turn this into, try to sell it to Netflix or one of the streamers? Are you trying to get it on the big screen? What's happening?
So we're trying to work on a proof of concept for it. Whether it's a feature or pilot, I think is the question. We're definitely trying to figure out what an extended version of this world would be.
Mhm.
And if it's a pilot, figuring out how to kind of weave in this amount of stress every week,
Right.
kind of leading up to a finale for a season or a series that would be satisfying. But either way, we're really interested in these characters, and we think like, as you alluded to before, the music industry is really big in the news right now for obvious reasons. But I think even aside from that, the music industry is always an interesting place to set
Oh yeah. The
stuff
whole
about morality and what to do and fame and money and all that stuff. So
well, for some reason, morality and the music industry, those two don't really go hand in
mm,
hand, I guess. But
no comment.
no comment. But just move forward. But what are you working on next? You
So
got the
this,
feature
working
film?
on, I think, directors are always working on feature films. There's a few feature scripts that we're trying to get off the ground. And there's another project kind of coming down the pike, another short project soon. But yeah, just generally, man, directing is my favorite thing to do. So it's really just figuring out what the next step is, how to get the work to more people, because this is the most viewed short I've ever had, and it's been great talking to people about it. So I'd love to just continue to do this on a bigger level.
So you want to do another short? Is that the plan?
The immediate next project is, we just got a little bit of funding for another short, but the kind of larger plan is to make a feature next, that being the
Right.
kind of next big project, whatever feature that may be. So, yeah, it's just trying to do what everybody else does and try to get that feature made.
Yeah, you're a hustler. I see you're a New York hustler.
Hey, man, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. That's all we know how to do, man.
Okay. Thank you so much, Wes.
Thank you so much.